After an accident, minutes matter. Your words and actions matter even more. You need help, and you need it now. This is David versus Goliath, brought to you by Dolman Law Group Accident Injury Lawyers, a boutique firm with a reputation for going head-to-head with the insurance company giants and putting people over profits.
Welcome to another episode of the David and Goliath podcast. I'm Matt Dolman, managing partner of the Dolman Law Group, here with my partner in crime, Stan Gipe. Stan, we are talking about probably the most heinous crime to have occurred in quite some time. This is so newsworthy. The whole episode is going to be dedicated to Luigi Mangione, correct?
Yeah, and I don't know it's the most heinous crime because there's been some bad stuff that's been done.
No, I just wanted to pepper you up because I know what you're going to say. He's become a cult hero.
Yeah, but it's definitely the most prominent, and it has brought out a weird side of society that you see out here, right? And it's okay. Look, we sue insurance companies. I fight with insurance companies for a living. All right, there's no love lost between me and anyone at any insurance company. Right, I've got into knockdown dragouts. I've actually, said cuss words to adjusters. I've called them names at times, and we've got never once has the thought of picking up a gun, killing someone, or even like wishing death upon any of them crossed my mind. And I find it almost bizarre and slightly unsettling that so many people find, what's alleged to be just straight up murder, no doubt about it, murder to be socially acceptable just because this guy's, the head or CEO of UnitedHealthcare.
Yeah, I mean, it's two mutually exclusive issues. Should be a general indictment of the insurance industry, but we can't also encourage, this type of behavior. Ultimately, at the end of the day, he might be making the decisions at a 50,000-foot view of in the direction the corporation is going to go in, but this is still insurance. Whether he's there or someone else is there, those decisions are still going to be made. That's how insurance companies make a profit, is by cutting down on the amount of claims they're going to pay out or limiting payouts. He's not the culprit.
Well, you got kind of a twofold thing, and you really got to look at what was the motivation. At first, when this first happened, I was sure, he was someone who had lost a relative or a loved one to some like denied cancer treatment or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But our office, most offices, we provide health insurance for our employees. We just went through this open enrollment plan, right?
Sure.
You, myself, all of our employees, we don't have the whole world open to us, but we got 4 or 5 different plans, right?
Yep.
The more you spend, the more coverage you get,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the more stuff you pay for on the front end, the more stuff you're entitled to on the back end. You buy cheaper coverage, you get less benefits, right? This is a trade-off. It doesn't mean to say that insurance companies are always giving you the benefits you're entitled to without fighting for them.
Of course.
Right? A lot of times you got to fight to get what the insurance company owes you. But to think that this is essentially a contract thing, and suddenly you're murdering the guy who's the CEO of the company, whose purpose is to make profit, just because you don't like the way the company's operating.
And now it came out today he was not even insured with United.
No, he's not insured with he wasn't.
No, that just came out. It's like that's coming across CNN right now. He's not insured by United.
You saw this stuff. His grandparents ran a chain of nursing homes that were cited for shoddy care. Just wonder, how does this guy get to this point where, he's intelligent, it's thought out. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't like, there he is, and, now I get a chance to think about it, and I made a mistake.
No, it's thought out by an engineering grad from the University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League school.
Yeah, to the point that he wrote like words on the bullets and shell casings. I mean, my God.
Mm-hmm. Deny, delay, defend, with the 3 Ds in the
Yes.
insurance industry. That's cited from a book.
Yeah, and I can tell you, if I am seeing posts on my social media feed, okay, 90% of the posts I see that deal with him are supportive.
It's horrible. Yeah, it's horrific.
It's crazy because I can understand like having a problem with UnitedHealthcare. That a lot of people do. But for all the people say this is right, this is what they had coming, this is somehow an appropriate way to deal with your grievance or problem. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, you're endorsing a tacit endorsement of vigilante justice. And vigilante justice also against an individual that's not really responsible for the system. The system would operate without him. It doesn't really matter who the next CEO is of United. That's how the business operates of insurance. He's not changing
Yeah.
anything. He actually, what he did is accomplish nothing except ruin a family for zero reason.
No, that's it. There's no accomplishment. There's not going to be any change in the industry. Man, I will tell you the one thing I do know is there's been a massive spike in private security for CEOs after this.
Yeah,
That I do know. But when you think about it, okay, the grievances with, okay, United Healthcare, you could extrapolate this to any company, right? I mean, let's say some guy bought a lemon from Honda.
yeah.
His car's broken down 20 times. He's out $20,000. Is that somehow now society is almost, giving him a tacit permission or a social pass on murdering the CEO of the company to sort of solve your grievance?
It's wokeism.
It's wokeism at its worst. I mean, you don't even like, okay, the Sacklers, right? Let's go out there. The Sacklers, we all know who they are. I mean, basically, flooded America with opioids. They're responsible for half of the addiction we have in society. You know how many deaths lay at their feet?
Mm-hmm.
There have been zero attempts on their life, to my knowledge. Right? A lot of people, you don't see anyone out there saying they should be killed. You don't see this stuff. So I find it, and I hate to say it, I find it, somewhat offensive and find myself taking up the side of the insurance
We don't
companies.
know how many threats the Sacklers get or how detailed the security really is. I would assume they do have security and incredibly high net worth individuals. But again, I don't. It's what we don't know.
Well, yeah, you really don't know, but you would assume that the CEO of United Healthcare had some measure of security. But then again, you know, uh,
I mean, this guy was
eh,
seen on the block near the hotel for a good 5 hours before, just stalking back and forth. No one.
but you got to imagine too, if you're a CEO, if you're anyone else, security's got to be inconvenient,
Yeah, of
right? I
course.
mean, think how bad that would suck. Like you got to run around, you got to coordinate your movements with two dudes standing outside your hotel room. Like there's a lot of stuff that I
Yeah, if
may
somebody wants to
do.
kill you badly enough, they're going to get to you regardless.
Yeah, especially if they're willing to give up their own life for it.
Always. If somebody's willing to give up their own life for it, they're going to be able to get you.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you: how in the hell did this guy get recognized? Okay, like somebody picks him up at McDonald's, right?
Yeah,
And
because he took his mask off to flirt with a woman at a hotel.
yeah, but that was at the hotel. But when he got recognized at McDonald's, he had a mask on. Someone told him with a mask on like this, they recognized just this from him sitting there at McDonald's. And I'm
Well, go further with the story. It's in the middle of the afternoon at McDonald's, and the guy walks in with a ski mask when his stuff's been publicized all over the press, and he's got long flowing, the same brown. I mean, it's almost like a white man's afro. It's a very strange, kind of like weird bushy hair he has, and I guess it looks very, very. It's not common, his hairstyle. That, in conjunction with the fact that he's wearing a ski mask in the middle of the afternoon at McDonald's, he stood out. I would assume he's probably acting nervous, looking around constantly. I have a feeling he stood out like a sore thumb.
maybe he did.
I mean, if you're working at McDonald's, you saw some guy come in with just wearing a ski mask, eating his burger and fries. You wouldn't think this is a little bit odd?
I think literally as we're saying this, I'm looking over to the left of my screen, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a picture up here of him in the McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's wearing like a brown hat. And I'm looking at this picture. I wouldn't recognize it as him right now. Like even if I'm looking at it with him sitting there, I mean, and not to be insulting, but half the time these guys, they're not paying a bunch of attention to McDonald's. They're not. I can't imagine they're aware enough that they pick this up, call it in, and now I think there's some questions to whether or not these people are even going to get their reward.
I didn't hear that. I haven't been following that, but yeah, I mean, somebody comes into a restaurant I'm at in the middle of the afternoon wearing a ski mask automatically stands out to me. Then just hearing the news that there's this guy on the loose and there's a manhunt for him, and he's expecting the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. You're at Pennsylvania McDonald's. I don't know. I can see why somebody called.
I don't know, man. God bless them. We had a McDonald's employee catch a serial killer around here recently, about 2 years ago. So I guess I shouldn't be that disparaging of the employees and their ability to catch murderers. But
Yeah.
look, well, let me ask you, where do you think this goes? Okay, where do you think this goes from here? There's going to be a trial. There's
Hmm.
going to be publicity.
Hmm.
This guy's kind of fighting this the whole way, and it sounds like doing everything he can to ratchet up the attention.
Well, he's fighting extra. He's fighting extradition back to New York.
Right, but he's not remorseful, right? He's doing everything he can to get in front of the cameras. He yells, he does these things, he tries to make his point. Do you think there becomes a social movement at all behind him? Or do you think this just fizzles because it's so socially inappropriate that it just can't happen?
I mean, I hate to draw a parallel. I mean, it's wokeism. So yes, I think they always look for something to rally behind. I mean, look what happened on October 7th, 2023. Whether Israel's right or wrong, a bunch of just citizens, not members of the army, citizens. There was rapes, brutality, and that was, whether the Palestinians are right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. People just jumped, liberals just jumped to defending them. In that argument, it was more of occupier versus settler. Here, this is more which I am not supporting one side or the other. This is a little bit different, but you're looking at the big machine of industry against private citizens, and how the big machine of industry is killing private citizens by not approving health care, denying, defending the 3Ds he put on those bullets. And yeah, could this spark a movement? I think it's the right time for it. Sure.
And I would draw almost a distinction between what you're talking about with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because when you look at it, the division there is over the principle. And no matter which side of this you're on, if you're on, hey, we support Palestine or we support Israel, everyone is offended by the actions taken against the individuals,
The
right?
people who care about, but what I was trying to make, I guess the point I was trying to make, Stan, is that there's so many people that are getting interviewed that don't even know what the issues are. They're just jumping the side of the Palestinians. They don't even know they're getting interviewed on the street. They have no idea. It's just part of what being a woke person is, just supporting whatever the issue is. It's just cool to be part of that.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? But where I'm going with it is these woke people, like they're sitting there saying, look how wrong it is that the Palestinians are being murdered, are being harmed, right? If you're supporting the Israel side, look how wrong it is that they crossed the border and kidnapped these people.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And killed.
No one
Yeah.
on the Palestinian side is saying we need to kidnap. There's no one out there, hey, it's good to kidnap people. It's good to kill people. No one on the Israeli side is championing saying, hey, we need to kill Palestinians. It's a war
Well, the
against
Palestinians are.
tomorrow.
They're saying it's part of the intifada, that it's rightful. It was rightful, and it's part of the means to the end, that they have to do this in order to get justice. That they're
Well,
being occupied.
in this case, I don't, it's beyond supporting the cause, like, and saying, "Hey, I agree with what this guy says." It's supporting the act of murder, right? And that's where I think we start drawing the line. Is when you go, look, I can see people going, I sympathize with him, but he went way too damn far. It's these people that say, I sympathize with him, and his acts are justified.
Yeah.
Like, how do we get there in society to where legitimately murder? I mean, isn't that pretty much the top of the hill when it comes to crimes and wrongs against society? I mean, you got some child rape and things like that might be up there with it, but murder's pretty much king of the hill.
Yes. But you're a
Yeah.
normal individual. It's hard to make sense of this, and society is now drifting towards wokeism and the crazy liberal left. It's hard to understand them. Just the fuel of a movement to feel like they're part of something. That's enough for these individuals. They don't even know what they believe in.
And I'm not really sure whether society's changing, whether social media gives, a wider breadth to these views. Whereas things would have been, no, who would have known what this guy was thing? It's now social media, and from, I'm not sure whether that's shifting societal views,
Well,
and you
social
get
media does fan the flames of the fringe. So people who are on the fringe, there's actually a forum for them now to speak. People and crazy people there to listen to them.
but beyond that, I think part of it may have to do with, what's appropriate in society and societal norms are measured against others, right? So when you're thinking, hey, this is inappropriate, right? But you look online and you see other people are doing something similar. You might override and go, well, everyone else is doing other people. It's okay. I'm going to put this out there because I think like these other people who are putting it out there. And suddenly you get more and more of an extremism or more and more of a fringe views sort of being accepted, and it, drives almost like a group thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. You're preaching to the choir.
So now this sort of sociological thing, I bring this to these are these sort of thoughts, these underlying things, not necessarily in this setting, right? These sort of feelings are the kind of things we try to get from jurors. Right, when we're out there and we're asking questions, right? It's rare that a juror in any other setting, anybody would stand up and say, yeah, I believe it's okay to murder a CEO if you disagree with what his company's doing. This is never like anything a juror would say. But now that we got on social media, other people saying it, people are beginning to adopt it. So these are kind of like underlying thoughts that are in people's head. And when we go through jury selection, you're trying to get this stuff out. You're trying to get people to sort of tend to give you their underlying feelings and thoughts, how they handle things. And this, and we do a lot of it. And this is a side I never really saw out there, and something that never really saw coming, that some people truly do have these deep-seated hatreds that they're not going to bring out. They're not going to say anything till someone else opens the gate with it, and then they'll jump on and run with it.
Yes.
And and now that they're on the boat and the boat's going down, they're like, yeah. And I think this leads to stuff like, riots. We get a lot of different stuff that's coming from these same things. At what point in time would you ever think January 6th could happen? Like, when would you get one or two people?
When I saw the dangerous growth of again, so I talked about wokeism. There's also the dangerous growth of the MAGA movement, and it's just people on the fringe of society. And again, what do we see in social media? Just fans the flames of the fringe, and then there's people out there who suddenly will join that movement and feel like they're the disenfranchised. Those who don't feel like they have a voice, all of a sudden they just rise up. And while it's a small minority, that small minority is always very loud, though.
Now, here's one other thing I wanted to bring up. Okay. Half of me looks at this and says, this guy, Luigi, is completely full of crap.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he just did this for the publicity. I think he was,
whatever it is, like, you look at these people and they say, you look at, he was in Hawaii for a while, right? You look at the landlord in Hawaii, said he had such debilitating back pain, right? Couldn't do anything. It interfered with it. Couldn't have sexual relations with a woman. Couldn't go out to be active and had. But then you look at the photos of him in Hawaii. He's shirtless with a backpack on, and on top of a mountain, and he's shredded. Well, how do you get shredded and on the top of a mountain wearing a backpack if your back is killing you?
You don't.
You don't. I mean,
No.
anyone does. Anyone who's sitting around here with debilitating back pain.
I mean, he did have back surgery. That actually happened.
Yes.
Rods and screws. And we do know what back surgery does to you. It's very difficult to be completely functional with back surgery.
100%.
It limits it's one thing to have neck surgery in terms of a neck fusion, but your back, it's load bearing. So now, and you also get adjacent level problems, the levels adjacent to where they actually did the fusion. But yet he was able to get to the top of a mountain. So he had a great recovery.
Yes.
How recent was his spine surgery?
I don't know how recent.
And were all those pictures in Hawaii post spine surgery or before his spine surgery?
Well, when he was staying in Hawaii was when he was complaining about the debilitating back pain that was interfered with his life so bad.
Understood.
So before.
How long was he in Hawaii, though? Was he there for a few years where there could be enough of a span of time to explain both in independent time periods?
When I read, the story I read, I believe, said he lived there for 6 months and then he left, and he may have come back for a couple months after that.
Okay, so it's a short period of time.
Maybe it was he lived there for 6 months and left to get back surgery. Maybe I may be making that up. But I believe I read something like that.
Gotcha.
But it seems to me like, you think about the people we know, right? We got clients, right? And there's a lot of back pain in the office, a lot of people getting surgery.
Sure.
Right? The people we see that we're dealing with, most of my clients that truly have surgical lumbar spine issues, would have trouble pulling off what he did. Getting on a bus, going up to New York, sitting there for 3 days in a hostel, walking around
for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, standing there for 5 hours, getting on a bike, heading to Central Park, going and getting on another. I mean, shit, you and I would have trouble keeping up with him
Yes.
for that day, even if we don't have back pain.
Something's wrong with the story. Yes, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I mean, something's wrong. The guy's obviously mentally deranged.
Hmm.
Whether there's just some seed of something that bloomed in his head. I got a feeling when we start putting this together, I think we're going to find out that maybe his convictions aren't quite as warranted as most of us initially thought.
Yep.
You look at his family seems to be fine. Family seems to be prominent. You don't really see
Hmm.
them out there defending him.
Nope. It's
Families
embarrassing to
expressed,
them. They're socialites.
yeah. So to me, okay, and this is just me pontificating within my office. He reeks of failed ambitions.
Yeah.
He reeks to me of someone who had a lot of promise. I'm a valedictorian. I'm going to, Ivy League school. I come from a really prominent family. I am going to be somebody, right? And then he didn't. He didn't reach those aspirations, didn't do all these things he thought he was capable of. And instead of going, you know what, this is my fault.
Yep.
Yeah, how do I change these? How do I make it better? You look to externalize. And look, my problems are due to corporate greed in America. My problems are due to this. This is why I'm having issues in my life. And now we're blaming Brian Thompson.
Yep.
That's what it reeks of to me. Just like a guy who's acting on failed ambitions and now sort of grabbing onto a justification.
And he destroyed a family. Now someone's husband, someone's father is gone forever. He accomplished
Yeah.
nothing. He didn't change the industry. It'll still be the same tomorrow. Luigi Mangione accomplished nothing except ruining someone's family. He's a piece of shit. But I mean, this is life. This is what the society we deal with.
I agree. And it's just disappointing to me that we don't at least have more people standing up to go, I understand where he's coming from, but never should you murder someone. How many people think it's okay to have
Yeah.
crossed that line because of who it is?
Well, I mean, I'm hearing it on the news more often on Fox than anywhere else. But yeah, enough newscasters are condemning the behavior and saying, I mean, look here, they're pointing out to the Washington Post reporter who actually came out the next day on Twitter, or maybe it was the same day, that evening of it,
Yeah.
and tweeted out that this was well deserved.
Yeah, well,
The
here's the thing.
Washington Post reporter said that.
Right. But you got to figure, okay, these people that are supporting the murder of Brian Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
right, are the same woke jackasses that refuse to support the death penalty for pedophiles,
Yep.
right? They don't want to support the death penalty for people who've actually done something bad, but think it's okay to murder a CEO. How the hell did we get here?
We've been seeing these riots going on for the last 10 years in this country.
Yeah.
Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the Palestinians, it just goes, it's an ongoing cycle.
Yeah, but how
The
about
left.
somebody wake up and just go back to can we all just kind of do the right thing a little bit,
Mhm.
lean a little bit more towards the middle, stop
That's
embracing
where I
the
am, not on the
fringes?
right or the left, but forever we always thought the right wing had the greatest extremists, whether it was the skinheads, the Ku Klux Klan. They're both very small groups, and then we see what goes on at the left, and whether it was the riots in Ferguson, where we're talking about the riots all over United States college campuses, and also within the cities, where people, individuals sitting down in front of traffic, shutting down traffic in major cities. This is for the Palestinians. It doesn't seem to end.
And you never want to chill intelligent discourse or debate, right?
No,
You
of
really
course
want
not.
everyone. I truly believe everyone's viewpoint deserves to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's hard to hear someone's viewpoint when they're throwing shit at you, right? It's hard to hear someone's viewpoint when they're creating chaos. It's hard to hear someone's viewpoint when they're storming, the DC Capitol.
Yes.
In order to have your viewpoint, you got to be at a reasonable position to broadcast it. You can't come from an extremism because you're instantly discredited. But anyway, we're starting to delve away from
Well,
Luigi
it is a
Mangione.
societal question, and are we creating a dystopian society based on just the fringe, especially the left, and just how crazy they are, the lunatics on the left, and what they're doing to society itself, and what they're allowing, even all the way down to like migrants. I come from most of us come from generations of immigrants. Very few of us were can trace our ancestry to this land 300, 400, 500 years ago. But it's gone out of control. And you look at these big cities and you look at the sanctuary cities, and again, it's the left, just the left, destroying our society.
Well, okay, so it's gotten out of control on both sides, right? You've
Mhm.
got the immigration that you certainly need legal immigration, but you've also got like down here, okay? We're in Florida.
Mhm.
You get a lot of people kicking back against immigration, right? They're taking our jobs, right? Okay, we're down here in Florida. I can promise you.
Well, yeah, they're not taking our jobs. The agricultural
Let me
jobs,
tell you,
that's
but I can
bullshit.
promise you,
Yeah.
I have never seen a legal resident of Florida going, if that son of a bitch wasn't out there, I'd be picking those strawberries.
I'm with you. Those agricultural jobs, 100%. But when we just allow people to come over unferreted and not, screen these individuals, we're not getting the best of the best from most of these countries. We're getting some of the worst of the worst.
100%. Right.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Whoever says you should just like let whoever come in, open borders, I don't even understand the argument.
And then they land in these cities, or sanctuary cities, where you can commit crimes, and there's very little punishment. These people get
But
right back out. It's just they get recycled through the system. It's just this is again, it's an indictment on the left, and
well,
it
that's
just continues.
jackassery run amok. Like anyone who says we should just open our borders, let anyone in. Now, like I've told you before, and this is starting to get a little left, that I think, look, we got to get out there, put an immigration policy together, figure how much money it costs to bring someone in, and double tax people, triple tax them until they pay it off.
Yes.
Right? Let's keep track of them. Tax the hell out of them. I guarantee you, most migrants, they'd gladly pay half their income in taxes if they could legally be here, and they'd work twice as much to do it. Let's figure out a way that it's not a financial drain on society as we let people in because they're sneaking over the border and draining it off. If we gave them a legal way to do it and just say, look, we're going to come take the money and keep track of it might be successful.
But let's circle back on Luigi Mangione now.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Should be interesting the next few months to see how this plays out and whether these memes and it's like little wouldn't call it a movement yet. It's not quite a movement, but he does have a cult-like following, and where will this evolve to? That should be interesting to see.
Yep, I agree. Who knows? We may have a episode 2 following up on this to talk about how everything changed or how this movement grew.
Well, appreciate it, Stan, for another fine episode of the Dolman Law Group podcast, the David and Goliath podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you again, Stan.
Always fun.
This episode of David versus Goliath is over, but your journey is just getting started. To share your story with us, visit dolmanlaw.com. That's DOLMAN law.com, or call 866-965-6242. The insights and views presented in David versus Goliath are for general information purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. The information presented is not a substitute for consulting with an attorney, nor does tuning into this podcast constitute an attorney-client relationship of any kind. Any case result information provided on any portion of this podcast should not be understood as a promise of any particular result in a future case. Dolman Law Group. Big firm results, small firm personal attention.